All right, behind the build episode 3. Today we've got a whole lot on the go, starting with our oil pan. So we're gonna be modifying this to fit around the new subframe and steering rack that you guys already saw. And then up next we have the exhaust, and we are going to be cutting this apart and rotating it so that it fits with the transmission tunnel. And then we're going to be measuring up for a new radiator now that the engine is finally sitting in place. But back to the oil pan. The plan for right now is we're going to cut this apart along here and here, because that's all in the way. And then we're going to test fit it on the engine right here with the crane, make sure it fits with our pan gasket. And then once we're happy with that on the crane, we're gonna put the engine back into the car, make sure that weight of the engine doesn't change anything, make sure our dipstick is good, and then we're gonna just continue on our merry way. Stop throwing shit.
Okay, with this chunk of the pan removed, it is now very obvious just how much of the oil capacity we're going to be pulling out of this pan. So we just had some concerns with how we're going to be feeding the engine enough oil, because the pickup is sitting right here and it used to be able to draw from that whole side, but now there's just going to be a wall there, so it's not going to have as much to pull.
And it looks like we're pulling like 2, maybe 3 quarts capacity out of this.
Yeah.
So I think the best idea is that once we get this fit on the pan or on the block around everything else, I think we can get it back into the car, and then we can crawl under and see how much room we have on the sides in between the subframe. And I think what we'll probably have to do is kind of build some expansion tanks on the side of the pan, and then just drill access holes through, kind of like it already is from factory.
Yeah, just a couple big holes on the side.
Yeah.
Build some reservoirs. And I was thinking we could also move the pickup from here kind of more into the middle.
Yeah.
So that it can just pull from all sides. So make a little opening here for it and extend the pickup tube on the engine just a little bit.
So I think first thing though, so yeah, we'll stick this back onto the car and make sure all of this is set at the right height, and then we can continue on.
Mess with more stuff.
Yep.
Let's do it. You can see we've got a nice amount of clearance between the steering rack and the bottom of the oil pan. We'll just add a nice flat sheet that goes across the bottom. The only spot is that one fitting. Clayton, if you can point to it.
Yeah, right here.
That fitting pokes up a little higher, so we're just gonna make a note of that and add a little bubble into the bottom of the pan to clear that fitting.
Yeah, we've got lots of room for it with the crank, so. And if it's just a little bubble, all the oil will just go around. It'll be all good, nice and happy.
Good. Back here, you can see that the pan clears the subframe crossbar. The pickup right now, you can see it's sticking out a bit, but we're gonna push that pickup back a couple inches so it's more in the middle of the oil pan. And then we can just add a straight sheet that goes up there. On the other side, there's a small issue. The rack mount is hitting right here right now, so we're just gonna have to notch around it a little bit.
Yeah, if you look from over here, my finger is where we'll put the new side of the pan, so it'll come in just on the inside of that mount.
Yeah.
And if you remember, we had moved this mount out farther to this side when we redid these mounts, so that was perfect.
Yeah.
Because we can't go any farther, and that will have really helped.
Yeah, so we will pull the pan back off, address that little issue, and then we're gonna throw the engine subframe in the car, test the oil pan one more time with the weight of the engine on the subframe. So let's try it out. All right, motor is in the car. Underneath, the oil pan still looks like it's gonna be working just fine. So we're gonna move on to figuring out our exhaust.
Yeah, the biggest problem right now is that with the angle, we can't even put it into the car to test fit it. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut this off right now so we can at least have this side bolted to the block, and then we'll crawl under and just put it exactly where we want it. So it should be pretty easy, but I've ate those words before, so let's see.
Alright, we got the exhaust all sorted out. It's all good to go. We tested it with the steering column just to make sure that wasn't going to be an issue. And it's all working suspiciously well. But it's getting pretty late, so we're going to wrap it up for tonight. And then tomorrow we will make our oil pan out of cardboard, make our reservoirs on the side out of cardboard, figure that all out, and then measure up our rad, and then I think that's going to be pretty much it for this episode. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Alright, we're back. Let's make some cardboard templates for the oil pan.
Okay, so we made the first block off piece that is just making up for the big chunk that we cut out of the front of the pan, and we made the marking for that fitting in the power steering rack so that that's going to work. And this is looking pretty good, so we're just going to send this with the oil pan to our fabricator guy just so he has a rough idea of exactly what we want. And up next we're going to, just kidding, we already made them. We made these side reservoirs for the tank, and this is just going to help us get some more oil capacity back into the pan since we cut out this chunk. Now, a fun little science experiment. This is how much oil capacity we lost, right? Because we cut it out of the pan, therefore it can't hold oil. But we're just kind of guesstimating here, and if you look at the rough like displacement of this box, it's like pretty close to the size of this, just if you look at it from everywhere. So that's good. I mean, like, if we're a little bit down on oil capacity, it's not the end of the world. So this is a really nice way that we got some more capacity back in, so we're not starving the engine, because we don't want that. So these side reservoirs are all done now, so when we go to send the oil pan to our fabricator, we'll just bring these along so he can replicate them out of aluminum instead of cardboard, because aluminum holds oil, cardboard doesn't. So next thing is going to be measuring up for the radiator.
Frame rails.
28.
28.
So we're going to be mounting this with little insulator bushings on the side. So we're going to be welding 90-degree tabs on both sides of the rad, and then those tabs will sit on just some rubber mounts. So we need to leave a little bit of room on the sides. I don't know.
25?
Yeah, 24, 25 wide. That would be perfect.
Okay, what about height? I was thinking that we shouldn't have the rad sit any lower than the subframe, just so it's not the lowest point on the front of the car.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, that looks pretty good right about there.
Okay, so that's going to be like 15 or 16 inches to the bottom of this bumper support.
Okay.
And I'm also thinking we can just tuck the rad right in as close as we can to this support.
Yeah, then it leaves us like a lot of room for our cooling fans and whatever.
Yeah, because my fans that I used on the V8 Miata were 2.5 inches deep. So that would be 5.5 inches with this rad. And if we go all the way to here, we have 7.5 inches to the water pump.
Nice.
The inlet is going to be sticking down underneath the level of this bar.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a really aggressive drop. So, but
Yeah.
if we have it poking up, kind of like the tape measure here, where it can go like this,
Yeah.
then we can probably make it work.
Yeah.
So that can be modified.
The bottom one down there.
It's right there.
Yeah. That one. That'll be easy. That's a later problem.
And tons of space there.
Anyways, we can take those rough measurements to see what's available online, order something up, and we will show you what rad we pick in a later episode. Also, we'll show you guys how the oil pan turns out, and yeah, so subscribe to the channel if you want to see that stuff, all sorts of other cool stuff, and we'll see you in a later video.